On a very serious note, Mary ma'am, welcome for our national summit. We have your talk, Road Towards Happy Parenting. I am sure you don't require any kind of an introduction. Everybody knows you, and already our parents have introduced you. So I won't want to further kind of invest our time in your introduction. I would like to hand it over to you, ma'am, for your topic today. Okay. Welcome, ma'am.
Thank you so much. Thank you for inviting me today, Harshali SNIC, for the session. You've put together such a galaxy of speakers. Just before joining today, I was going through the program, and you've put together an absolutely mind-boggling number of amazing speakers. So it's an absolute privilege to be here amongst all of them. And I had actually thought I may not be able to join because there were a few things happening, and I hadn't had time to be able to even think about the topic. But fortunately, I got about an hour from 4 o'clock to sit and think about what I might say. And so, you know, like I've been asked to talk about a road to happy parenting. And I thought to myself that I'm not going to talk too much about you know, parents making time for themselves, taking care of themselves, because this kind of stuff you will find at many websites, and, you know, there's a lot of pop psychology as well going around these days. So these are bits of information that the parents will get in any case. Instead, I thought I will use this time, which is like a gift, to talk about some of the things that, you know, like, we practice through our experiences, in the sense that, you know, when parents approach us, we usually talk about a lot of the flesh and bones. People invite us to talk about the flesh and bones of how to help our kids. OT, speech, behavior therapy, you know, all that kind of stuff. But we rarely get an opportunity to talk about what we call the soul of what we do at Action for Autism, the core of the work. And the core really is about learning to be happy. That is the core of the work we do at AFA. And that is something, that philosophy is something that we try to share with all our team members, which is getting a little bit difficult in the pandemic, because we new team members are coming in. We don't really get to see them. We just meet them a bit online. But that is something, all the ones who've been there for many years, and we are very fortunate to have team members who've been with us for a decade and more. And they all know that this is really the core of what we do, this understanding of how to be happy. And because it's not just about happy parenting, because happy parenting leads to happy children as well. So I'm going to try and talk a little bit about that. So we, you know, just like many of the others over here, a lot of parents, you know, we talk to a lot of parents who connect with us for, you know, various kinds of support and services, as I'm sure they do with all the speakers who were there before I came on. And so when the parents connect with us, you know, I've got a little PowerPoint, which I think I will quickly see if I can put on. Yes, this one. Oh, but it's like this. Okay. Can I make it larger? I don't know how to make it larger. No. 1 second. I'll stop the share. Just give me a minute. I'll
Sure, ma'am, no problem.
Play from start. And then, now what? Nay, sorry. I'm terrible at this. I think I just have to go with whatever's coming. Where's the PowerPoint one? Oh, there. Yeah, I'll just go to this. Right, I'm sorry, I can't, it's not showing the whole thing. It's not showing the whole thing, is it? No. But anyway, it doesn't matter. I can't do any better than this. So anyway, so we ask parents, you know, what are some of the things that you want your child to be doing? And they come up with various things. They say they want them to have the good life. They want them to have speech, not be so hyperactive. Some want them to get into regular school. Some want them to be able to get married. Some say we want them to become independent, to take care of themselves. So there is a whole range of things that parents usually come up with. But then, when we stop and think about it, that, we ask parents, so you want your child to learn self-help skills. Why do you want him to learn? And they say that so that, they can do things themselves. So, okay, they do things themselves, so what? Then they would, parents might say, then they will learn to be more independent. So, okay, if they're independent, then what happens? So we help parents to kind of go through this process before it often occurs to them that what they're talking about is happiness. We want a child to get married because we think that is what will make them happy. We want them to learn independent skills because we think that will make them happy. But very often as parents, we are not able to think like that. We tend to think in little bits and pieces, and we need to be able to be helped to see that really it is not so much about learning how to add or learning how to read or learning how to make an omelette as it is about being happy. I'll share a little story that I just came across the other day. It's about this king who was, of course, like kings was very, very, very wealthy, but absolutely miserably unhappy. And the king was out with his minister one day, and he came across this, one of his subjects who was a farmer, a very poor farmer. And he saw that the farmer was sitting outside the house with his wife and child, and they looked very happy and they were doing something together. And he asked his minister that, this man has nothing, but how come he's so happy? What makes him so happy? And the minister said that that's because he has not joined the 99 Club. And the king said, what is the 99 Club? And the minister said, you give me 99 gold coins and I will tell you what that is. So the king gives him 99 gold coins. And what the minister does, he puts the gold coins in a bag, and at night he leaves it outside the door of the farmer. In the morning, the farmer wakes up and he comes out and he sees the bag. He takes it into the house and he opens it and he's overjoyed. He's never seen so much of gold in his life. Right? He's never seen any gold really, and this much of gold is too much. So he's excited with all the gold, and he pours the bag out and starts counting it. And he counts and he sees 98, 99, 99. So then he counts again. And again, 99. I mean, that's weird. So he tells his wife to count again. And then he says, who's this fool who's just giving 99? Ek dera bhul gaya hai kya? So then he says, okay, then I will have to work and get that one more coin to make it 100. So from the next day, the farmer started working extra hard. He was out on the field all day. And every day he had to slog and struggle to get a little bit more money that would eventually, maybe in a year or 2 years' time, enable him to buy that gold coin. So after a few months, the minister brought the king around to where the farmer was, and they walked past his house, drove past his house. Kings don't walk. And the king saw the farmer and he said, they're not happy anymore. What happened? They look so miserable. And the minister said, yes, because he's joined the 99 Club. And the king said, so what is the 99 Club? He said, when people join the 99 Club, then they're no longer happy with all the things that they were happy with before. Now they need that one more thing that will make them happy. And that is what happens to most of us. We often have enough to be happy, whether it is in general or whether it is with our children. But we always think that there has to be that one more thing. If we could get that, that would make us so very happy. So for instance, when we start our life, some of us may have a cycle, some of us may have a car, we may have a small i10 or something like that. And then we aspire to have a Toyota. When we get the Toyota, we aspire to have a Mercedes, which is okay. It's absolutely okay and wonderful to aspire for more things. The problem starts when we start looking at somebody else's and say, oh, he's got a Mercedes, I've got to get one. See, my brother-in-law's now got a Mercedes, I have to get one too. Oh, they've got a Porsche, do you know that? My goodness, it's amazing, I have to get one. And now they've bought an apartment at West End. How can we be staying here? We should be moving to West End also. I visit my friend and I see his new flat screen and I say, oh boy, it has all these new features. I must get that as well. I didn't really need it. I already have a flat screen, but now I must get this other one that my friend has. And that one more thing, if I can just get that, that'll make me happy. Once my child has learned self-help skills, I'll be happy. But when he knows his self-help skills, then I think if he gets independent in dressing himself, I'll be happy. And then, there is this one more thing and one more thing. We believe that it is things and experiences that will make us happy. And this is not something that, strange people in the autism world or the disability world do. This is something that society, as we know it now, does to us. It does it. It wasn't so strong, even say maybe 50 years back. It's getting stronger and stronger because that is where society is going, teaching us to be unhappy. I don't know how many of you remember this ad on our TV screens about 10 years back. It was by a job portal. It could have been Naukri.com, or I think it was another one of the job portals. I cannot remember, but it was about this young man who's driving his car, looking very happy, driving along. And the voiceover says, ye happy Singh ko dekho, what a fool he is, aisa buddhu hai. And why is Happy Singh being called a buddhu? Because he's got a job that he's happy at. And there is this wonderful job portal. If he went there and looked for a job, he'd get something that would pay him much more. Now that is a perfectly okay thing to do. But what the advertisement says, not that. The advertisement says, not that you get happy, be happy, but you can look for something else. No, it says, you have to be unhappy. You're a fool to be happy. You must make yourself unhappy in order to go to the job portal to find a job that will pay you more. And that's what society keeps teaching us, that unless we have this one more thing, excuse me, unless we have this one more thing, I will not be happy. 1 second. I made some notes on my mobile, which I have to find. Right. So unless if we have this one more thing, we will not be happy, right? If I get this one thing, and a lot of our unhappiness is due to our children, because we think if he stops flapping his hand, I'll be happy. If he stops flapping, then when he starts speaking, I'll be happy. But if he's speaking now, if she learns to read and write, I'll be happy. If she's reading and writing, then something else, right? There is always something else. And it's not just about our autistic kids, it's about typical kids. We know that people who do not have autistic kids, who have non-disabled kids, are they happy with the way their children are? They really don't, because even those who have typically neurotypical children, they are unhappy. Why? Because they want the kid to get a certain number of marks in school. They want them to do their projects better. My sister's son is singing so well. Why don't you sing like him? Why aren't you playing cricket like everybody else does? Sports kyun nahi karte ho? So there is always something or the other. Even with typical children, when they go to do their boards, if they pass out with reasonable marks, that's not good enough. They have to have more marks so that they could get into this college that I want them to get into. And when they get into the college I want them to, I'm not so happy, because I wish they had taken up this subject, or they had got that subject which I had wanted. And even if they do that, I'm not so happy with the marks they score in college. And when they finish that, I'm still not happy, because maybe they've not got the job I wanted, or not dating the girl I wanted, or not having the children I wanted. Our unhappiness with our typical kids also continue all the time. It really, really never ends. So why does that happen? What is it keeps pushing us towards that one more thing that will make us happy. It's what we call beliefs. Beliefs are things that we pick up through life. It's the way we collect seashells in the seashore or collect stones. I'm a stone collector. Wherever I go, whether I've been to the North Sea or the Pacific or the Atlantic, I've collected stones from beaches like people collect seashells. So beliefs are things that you collect through your lives and they become a part of you. Beliefs could be anything. It's like, for instance, it's not only about children. Like I have a belief that you have to brush your teeth twice every day, after your breakfast and after your dinner. And it's only in recent years I realized there are many different beliefs. Some people believe you brush your teeth before your breakfast and after your dinner. There are some people who believe you only brush once in the morning. They're all valid because they're all different beliefs. And these are beliefs that we pick up from our environment, right? Or for instance, I have the belief that you don't waste food. I grew up in a home where you were not allowed to leave one morsel of food on your plate. If you served yourself X amount, you finish all the food that is there. Otherwise, see all the starving children in the world. You cannot waste food. So, and I know a lot of you have also gone, people who are participating have also have experienced this while growing up. So that is the other belief system I have. I just cannot bear to waste food because it really knocks into my belief system. So belief systems can be things that we pick up from our environment. They also come through our experiences. For instance, the way we experience our relationships, the way we meet people. And through these belief systems, we pick up judgments. Some of them could be positive judgments. Some of them could be negative judgments. And to give you some examples, it could be like, it all depends on the belief system, so that you have some families that have only daughters and are miserable and unhappy. And there are families where there are only daughters and they're absolutely happy. They love the idea that it's an only daughter home. So that means that having only daughters in the home is not naturally something to be unhappy about. Whether you're unhappy about that or not depends on the beliefs that I've picked up from my environment, right? So there are multiple kinds of beliefs that we pick up. Let me just check my time. Are there multiple kinds of beliefs that we pick up? Oh, I haven't started it, sorry. That we pick up. And these could be ladies who wear pants are very modern. There was a time when it was believed ladies who wore pants were not good people. They were like, kaise aurat hai. Now, a woman who wears pants is a very modern person. And it's not always true because, a woman who wears pants is not necessarily modern. There's a belief a woman who wears skirts is very modern. Absolutely not. You could have women who wear skirts and pants whose minds have been left behind in the 19th century. And I know that some of the most forward-thinking, modern-thinking women and liberal-minded women are women who only wear saris, right? But there is a very strong belief these days, I find, that anybody wearing a pant is seen as a modern person, a woman wearing a pant, which is not correct at all. But that's a belief system that we've picked up. Or a belief system that a man who cooks, something to kaisa hai, right? If in our homes, we need help in the kitchen. I heard Mr. Rodriguez speak, but that's a very rare kind of a man and a rare kind of a home. In most homes, if you need help in the kitchen and there is a boy and a girl in the house, you will not call the son, you will call the daughter. Because that's a belief system that the woman has to go into the kitchen, the man is not supposed to go into the kitchen. Is that really true? No. Men can cook as well as women. Men should cook as well as women, right? But it's the belief system, right? A child with autism is a tragic thing. That too is a belief system. And these kinds of belief systems, like I said, we pick up through our lives and in the ways we are exposed to things. So for instance, when I show you this picture of different women, when we look at these pictures, and since it's hard to do an interaction online, I'm going to just say these things. Face to face, it's easier to do an interaction. For most of us, when we look at this lady here, or when we look at these ladies, or when we look at this lady, we would say, or this one, that ye are hijab pehni hai, isko dekho to muh dhaki hai, oh, these must be really, not modern at all. And when we see this one, hat pehni hai, she is very modern. This one, cleavage hai, must be modern. This one, again, must be a very modern woman. And that is not true at all. Not true, right? In fact, the reality is that, this is not the real picture, but I have a friend who wears a hijab. She's Australian. She's one of the most liberated, modern Bangladeshi women I know, but she just likes wearing a hijab. Her husband doesn't tell her to wear it. Her mother-in-law doesn't wear one. She just wears it. But our beliefs tell us that she must be a repressed woman. And this one must be a very moderate, modern, liberated woman. Not true at all. Many of them are completely repressed. And in fact, I can't remember which one of these women is. I think this one is actually what's it called? In the head of the panchayat, I forget the word. Anyway, so she's a village head woman, right?
Sarpanch.
Sarpanch. Thank you so much. She's a sarpanch, and she's not a namesake sarpanch as you often have in India. She is a sarpanch whose word is the law. But for most of us, our belief systems have been so, influenced by our environment and experiences that we believe, oh, somebody looking like that cannot have much power. But she's a very empowered woman. So how do our belief systems come about? They come about from the time when we are little, when we are really, really little, right? I'm sorry for the terrible way my PowerPoint is showing. So our belief systems start from the time when we are little. They grow with us. So, I had this friend visit at our Jasula center, and she came with the two little kids. One was 3 and one was 4. First of all, both of our kids were these scrawny little things. And in India, scrawny kids are, isko khane nahi milta hai. We believe our children must be fat. For her, it didn't make any sense to her. Kids were eating healthy, and that was it. And then this little 3 and 4-year-old were climbing up on the jungle gym and hanging from there and stuff like that. And they fell down a couple of times. And I watched that she didn't do anything about it. She stood there watching to make sure that they weren't hurt. And they were so used to falling and not running, crying to anybody, that they got up, checked themselves, dusted their feet, and got up again to play. And I was thinking it was so different from this other person I know, whose daughter, about 7, often came to use the same jungle gym after her school was over. And if she ever fell down and the mother was around, there would be this crying and holding and hugging and poor baby thing happening. So what was happening here was a different belief system that was being created. One set of kids had learned, lagta hai, utte hai, we take care of ourselves. The other kid had learned that when I get hurt, there must be a whole group of people around me who have to fuss over me and tell me that, I've got hurt and it will become all right. Okay. So what happens is when you're young, kids, they at that point when they're doing the crying and all that, it's pretty conscious. If you're around children and you observe, unless if they've got hurt really badly, even then when they cry, if you've taken care of it and the pain is gone, they stop crying. Those who don't stop crying, they do it very, very consciously. And I will share this little story. I keep thinking maybe I won't have time. What's the time now? Yes, I will. I'll manage. I'll share this little story because I think it's a very important one. So this little kid used to go to a swimming coaching thing. And so one day she was on the diving board, and she was waiting to dive when this boy, Bobby, came from behind her and gave her a push, and she fell into the water. 6-year-old, 5 or 6, I can't remember. Anyway, so she falls into the water, and then she swims to the edge, climbs out, and then she starts crying, weeping and all that. And then she goes to her coach. So now I know the story because she'd come to her counselor and she was recounting the story to her counselor. And she was telling her counselor about this whole incident. So the counselor said, so you went crying to the coach. So then what happened? So then she said, I went crying to the coach. And then I said, coach, this is what happened. I was on the diving board and Bobby, he pushed me and I fell into the pool. So then the counselor said, Tab kya hua? And then she said, so then when I was crying and telling the coach, he took out some cookies. He patted me on the back and said, don't cry, and gave me some cookies. So the counselor said, supposing you had, because see, this girl knows how to swim very well. There wasn't it's not that she got hurt, nothing. So she said, what if you had gone to the coach, and you didn't want to be pushed, and I understand that. If you had gone to the coach without crying and just walked up and said, coach, today Bobby pushed me and I don't like it and I want you to tell him. Do you think you would have got the cookies? She said, not a chance. So here is a kid who's learned that when I have to go and say this, I should cry and go, because then I will get the cookies. And what happens is that we learn through our life to slowly come to a place where we do these things to make things happen. And as we get older, we are not doing it consciously anymore, right? We are no longer conscious when we are doing all of this. For instance, if I were to ask all of you attendees who are here, that supposing your spouse forgot your birthday or your anniversary, how would you feel? Would you feel upset or not? If you would feel upset, write yes in your chat box. If you would not feel upset, write no in your chat box. I want to take a quick look. Okay. So since we don't have much time, I'll just go with the ones I've got. There are more yeses than nos, and that is the reality. When I do a face-to-face workshop, most people say, yes, they would be upset, right? And why do we get upset about it? Because we've learned from the time when we were young that if somebody loves me, then they must remember to, they must remember to acknowledge these events. And if they forget, if I am upset about it, what do? We tend to sulk a little bit. We tend to maybe bang a door. We maybe not speak to them. We maybe go off somewhere. We do things. Why do we do things? Because we want to manipulate the other person to remember, don't forget the next time, or to get something out of them. We bang the door and we walk out. We do these kinds of things. And these are the things that we learn from the time when we are young. The reason the person does not remember is not because they're trying to be horrible or mean. They just don't remember. I mean, I have to make a confession. I never remember anybody's birthdays. I don't remember my birthday. I don't remember our anniversary. The only thing I ever remember is my son's birthday. One and only thing. And I used to remember my parents, and they knew that I was a very forgetful person. I'd never remember, right? So when people forget, it's not that they are doing something terrible, but we have to remember that. And very often we don't, and we tend to use that as a way to get what we want. So for instance, my husband has forgotten my birthday. So I might bang the door and go and say, I don't talk to him and stuff like that. And then, he follows me around and says, okay, I forgot. Chalo, I'll take you out to the Bukhara for a meal or something. And then I say, okay, and then we go to the Bukhara. So I've had my way. So we tend to manipulate the world. But then how are we doing it? By making ourselves unhappy. And that is what society keeps teaching us. That make yourself unhappy, and then you will get what you want. And what we want to stop and think is that really such a great way of doing things? Does it really help if I'm constantly making myself unhappy about things? Because society tells us that it's natural to be unhappy. And we can stop and think, is it really that natural to be unhappy? And I'll share my screen again quickly. Is it really that natural to be unhappy? Because, if savere ghar mein pani nahi aaya hai, of course, I naturally get upset. If I don't get the promotion I wanted, of course, to gussa to hona hi hai. If my son marries someone from a different community, caste, religion, gussa to hona hi hai. My daughter fails her exams, of course, I will get angry. I will be upset. I will be unhappy. My child getting a diagnosis of autism, of course, ye to unhappy hone ka hi baat hai. But the reality is that all of these things that happen, they are just an event, including the diagnosis of autism. They are an event, they are a situation. How I respond to it is my choice. How is it my choice? You will say, how is it my choice? It can't be. So let's look at it. How we respond to an event is determined by a belief that I have about what that event means for us. So when my husband forgets my birthday, it means he doesn't love me. If my daughter marries somebody from a different religion, if she cared for me, she would not do it. So I've got this, or marrying somebody from a different religion is shameful for my community. It's a belief system. These are all beliefs that somebody from a different religion, or my daughter decides to wear clothes that I don't like. Again, if I get upset about it, there is a belief behind that. That is making me respond the way I am responding to what she does, right? So anything that happens, there is a belief behind that. And that determines how oh God, it's not showing, sorry. How do I do it? We react accordingly. Sorry, one second. How we react to an event, if the belief system says that it's something that is not good for us, I react like this. If the belief system says it's good, then we react in a more positive way. So, like, I'll give you one little example. Supposing my daughter marries somebody of a different religion, okay? And I'm going to touch on a slightly sensitive thing. I would say, given the population in our country, most of the participants here are Hindus. Now, if my daughter marries a Muslim, 99% of the families would be terribly, terribly upset. But supposing, and we would say, no, that has nothing to do with being a Muslim. That is to do with being a different religion. But supposing if my daughter marries a white Christian, how many of us would get terribly upset about that? And I know if I were doing it face to face, most people have said not too many families would be upset if my daughter went and married a white American who's a Christian. And then again, I asked the question, what if my daughter goes and marries an American, but an African American? So everything, the reaction we give to something is not written in stone. Nothing is written to stone. How we respond to something, how happy or unhappy we are about a situation is determined primarily by the belief that we have behind any event that happens. And how we respond to any event is really our choice. It's an unconscious choice, but it's a choice nevertheless. And we can change that. How do we change that? By reflecting on what is the belief that we have that is making us unhappy. Whether that belief is about a spouse forgetting our birthday, or it is about having a child who has autism. Because beliefs are not engraved in stone. Because if it were, then all of us would have the same reaction to the same event. Or all of us would have the same reaction always. Each of us would have the same reaction always. But many of us would have, say 30 years back, if we had grown kids, many of us would have objected to our daughters wearing skirts. Those same parents are now okay to their granddaughters wearing skirts. their belief systems have changed because beliefs are not engraved in stone. And we can change our beliefs. We can change our beliefs. And the thing to remember is that everything that happens, of course, we can't control everything that happens. But 10% of everything that happens to us, we have no control over. But 90% of what happens, it's like my daughter marrying a foreigner or somebody of a different religion. I have no control over that. That's the 10%. The 90% is decided by how I react to that. So let me share a quick story. So I'm getting ready for work and I've got an important meeting that day. So I wear a sari, which I don't do every day. So I wear a nice crisp cotton white sari and I come down. And my niece, who's getting ready to go to school, she has kept a coffee cup right at the edge of the dining table. And I hadn't noticed. So I come down and I knock against the coffee cup. It falls all over my sari. That is the event, right? And I have no control over that. That's the 10%. But then how I react to that is my choice. So what happens when she spills the coffee? I absolutely lose my cool. I say, you're not a little kid anymore. You have the sense to know not to keep the cup here. You should be keeping the cup in the center. Look what you've done. Now my sari is spoiled. I have to go and change. I'm really so bugged with you. And I just stomp off upstairs in an absolute rage. In the meantime, she's dissolved in tears. So I go up and I'm so angry that, I find it difficult to find another sari, but I managed to somehow change. And I come down. And by that time, she's been crying. And as a result, she's not got ready and she's missed her school bus. So now I not only have to go to work, I have to also drop her to school. So I tell her, now get around. You've already missed your school bus. Get up and get into the car. Excuse me. So she gets into the car and I'm sure I get late dropping her and everything. So I drive a bit rashly. I get stopped by a cop. I get fined 1,000 rupees. I manage to drop her off. And in an absolute rage and a huff, I get to the office. And then when I get there, I realize I've forgotten to carry my computer and all my important papers that were in the computer bag. So my day starts off terribly. I'm 20 minutes late. I come back home in the evening. My niece is really upset with me. She doesn't speak to me. And we've created a little rift between us. She refuses to talk to me. And there's nothing I can do about that, right? And I know that, I've spoiled our relationship a little bit. And that entire thing that happened was in my control. But I could have done it differently. Supposing I change that 90% and I come down and I knock over the coffee cup and I say, sweetie, I've told you so many times to be careful. Don't keep the coffee cup like this. And she's very apologetic and says, I'm so sorry, auntie. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Come, let me help you. She runs up with me and I say, no, you go and get ready. You'll get late for your school. So she goes and it takes me another 5 minutes to put on my sari. So I'm late by 5 minutes. When I come down, she's taking her school bus. I say bye to her. I take my papers and I leave for work. That 10% of the spilled coffee, I have no control over. But the 90% of how I react to it is completely in my control. What people say to me, for instance, if somebody says something negative to me, I don't have to be a sponge. I can just let it pass, right? That 90% is in my control. And that is what we have to look at when we are parenting our children, to remember that if I work on the belief systems that make me really, really unhappy, because no matter how much of yoga I do and meditation I do, if I have difficulty in accepting my child's autism, I will not be really, truly happy. Many of us feel that we've accepted our children. Loving our children is not the same as acceptance. We all love our kids. But being able to accept your child is being able to accept your child with all the flaws and the warts and everything. right? It's like, if I love my husband, I wouldn't say that, if you could just change your eyebrow and make it something else, I would love you more. And we have to do the same with our children, because our children, they are our own people. But our dealings with them are often marked by expectations of what we want them to be. Our expectations of, हम मांगे थे कि हमारे तरह इंजीनियर होगी, हमारे फैमिली में सब कोई डॉक्टर होगा, हम सोचे थे वो भी डॉक्टर होगी. Our desire that they would be smart and obedient, that they won't flap, that they won't rock like that in front of everybody. So my expectations, it is my choice how I view my child, and my expectations of my child, which is not just to do with autism. Most parent have expectations of our children, which mars our relationship. And those expectations marks my acceptance of my child. And it's all tied up in my belief of what a child should be. And until I can really accept my child, am I really happy? Till I can accept my child with the autism, with the flapping, with everything if he does. If I cannot accept my child, I can't really be happy. And if I don't accept my child, all of us keep saying that, I went there and people were staring and, people were saying things and, look at the way they behave with my child. But then how do I behave with my child? What is my response to my child's flapping, jumping? How uncomfortable do I get when I go out and he or she does anything? Because if I get uncomfortable, how can I expect the world to accept them? And something, as parents, if you're accepting, the world accepts. And I'll share another quick story. How much time do I have? Okay, another quick story. So when Neeraj, my son, was about in his mid-teens, he had all these, weird things that he would do. Weird fun. For me, they were weird fun. So he'd started walking, and since I'm not standing, he'd do this kind of thing while he'd walking down the road, like a stork. And he's very tall. He was 6 feet already. So he'd walk down like a stork down the road. I never stopped him, because if that made him happy, maybe now I realize maybe there was some sensory issue. I didn't know about sensory 40 years back or 30 years back. So, I didn't stop him. He did that. And not only that, I would also walk with him. And then I had this couple who came to stay with me from the US. So when the 4 of us would go down the road, all 4 would walk like that. And all of Defense Colony knew these 4 people who walk like that, and they would all smile benignly at us. Nobody cared. So because if I show acceptance, the world will show acceptance. If I can, and also, first of all, the world will accept my child. I have to lead by example. Also, the other important thing is that if I am a happy parent, I want my child to be happy. In order to do that, I have to first be a happy parent. If I can't be a happy parent, how can I teach my child happiness? I cannot. So my child's happiness will come when I have learned to be happy. How do I feel? I have to think of this. How do I feel if he does not speak? If he cannot go to a regular school? If my child does not perform the way I want him to? Of course, I'll work on all of that. But how do I feel when he or she does not do that? That is what I have to really work on. If I am comfortable with that, then I don't look for magic cures. I don't waste money. I don't put my child through all kinds of crazy therapies and spend lakhs of rupees and make them spend the entire time doing these crazy things and giving very little mindful time to my child, because I'm too busy making him do all of this. But if I am not embarrassed of my child, if I'm not ashamed of my child, if I accept my child for what he or she is, the world will do that. And my child will experience that, my child will feel that, and my child will also learn to be happy. I will be able to help my child change his belief systems. And I will stop trying to make him normal. And that's one of the things that we have to work on. Do not try to make my child normal, right? when I have unconditional acceptance of my child, I naturally do the right things. I learn to give my child choice. I learn to ask my child his opinion of things. I learn to acknowledge his experiences, not just say, you have to stop being angry. I have to understand what was bothering him and say, I understand something was bothering you. I haven't been able to figure it out. I stop fixating on fixing him. And when I do that, I naturally also find time for myself and to look after my own needs. I want to quickly share, if I have time. What's the time now? 21. A story of unconditional love. I find this one of the most amazing stories that I've ever heard, because unconditional love is a tough one. We rarely have unconditional love, whether it is of our parents or whether it is of our spouse or whether it is of our children. But when we have unconditional love, that really changes everything. And if we can work on the belief system thing, that truly, truly helps. So this is about this elderly gentleman. He would be about in his mid-80s, and he'd come to get some little medical thing taken care of. And the doctor's assistants noticed that he was looking a little impatient to leave. So she came and said that, okay, you give me 5 minutes, I'll dress you up. So he says, yes, I'm in a bit of a hurry. So then she comes back and she starts dressing it up. And she says, where are you in such a hurry in the morning? So he says, oh, I go and have breakfast with my wife every morning. So she said that, where is your wife? So he said, she's in a nursing home and I don't want to be late for breakfast. So the nurse asked, the doctor's assistant asked, why is your wife in the nursing home? So he said, I find it hard to take care of her now. She stays in the nursing home and she has Alzheimer's. So, and I go and have breakfast with her every morning. So the nurse said, but if she has Alzheimer's, does she know who you are? Does she recognize you? So the gentleman said that, well, actually, she has not recognized me for the last 5 years. So the nurse said, if she doesn't recognize you, why are you in such a tearing rush? And the man said, you know what? She may not know that I'm a husband, but I still know that she's my wife. And that is truly unconditional love, because it doesn't matter that she doesn't know. But for him, he had to be there for her, whether she knew or not. And before I end, I quickly want to share one more story that I like to share with our parents. Before I start the story, I just want to say that unconditional love is acceptance of what is, what has been, and what will be or will not be. It's an acceptance of everything. Everything. So I'll just quickly end with the story. And many of you probably know the story. It's not such a new story, but I love it. It's about this water bearer who used to carry water on his shoulder into clay pots and fill water from a river and carry it up a mountain and go to the master's house and deliver water there. So he used to do that every day. And one of the pots used to look really sad. And so one day the water bearer said, why do you look sad when we go up to deliver water? So the pot said, you know what, there is a slight crack in my side, and you fill water at the pond every day, and yet some of the water just drains out. So the water bearer said that, I know that there's a crack in your side, and that's all right. But he noticed that this chap continued to be unhappy about it. So then the water bearer said, you know what, I know there's a crack in your side and it's okay, but look at all the beautiful flowers on the side of the road. Just look at those, enjoy those while I go up to the master's house. But again, he saw that the pot continued to be unhappy. So then he said, you know what? I know that you have a crack in your side. I've always been aware of that. And which is why I've put the seeds on your side of the road. And it is because you have that crack on your side, you are able to water all the seeds on your side, and I'm able to put all the beautiful flowers on my master's table. So, when we think of our children, we have to remember that, some pots have little bumps, some are little crooked, some have little cracks. And, we have to be able to accept whatever the way they are and not get so bothered about how society looks at all of these. Because after all, the pot is mine. And how I look at the pot is what really matters, not how society looks at it. And so if we can just remember this, that happiness that I get out of my child, that happiness I have in whatever I have around me is my choice, whether I want to be happy or not, I can move towards happy parenting. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Mary Madam. There was a lot to learn from your stories. I believe that all big speakers have many stories to share. That is where their experience and their wisdom speaks. So just to summarize, in very short time, I would like to summarize. We spoke a lot about the belief systems of parents also and of the society as well. That belief system is what matters the most. And if we want to actually bring the change, it has to start really from us. We should not look out for the change in the society or to the next door. The change actually lies within us. And if we start bringing out that change within us, we can definitely go well ahead. We also saw that algorithm you gave with respect to the event and the reaction to that event, which matters the most for the parents. And you rightly said that we need to accept the issues. We need to accept the stimming of my child, the rocking of my child, whatever my child is doing, accept it that way, because this is my child. At the end, when the pot, you said that the pot is on mine, that actually made the difference. Although there are lots of bumps, there are a lots of, we're not leading towards perfection at all. Definitely, we're not leading towards perfection, because perfection is what the norm of the society is. We are trying not to normalize our child. We are trying to kind of enjoy with our child with whatever abilities and capabilities and strengths my child has. So there is, I always feel there is really something common about all big speakers, which we have invited to the SNIC Parent Summit. They always believe in that perspective of belief, which has changed the world for them. And rightly, you are also the one who is leading with your belief and taking so many steps wonderfully ahead. Thank you so much, ma'am, for your amazing, what I can say is that the talk was so, I was just stuck to the laptop screen. I was not off for it, even for a single second. Thank you. Thank you for your talk. Thank you for your utmost guidance.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am, for joining.
Thank you, and thank you, everyone, for listening and for this opportunity. Thank you so much.
We will definitely have a question, ma'am, in the panel. The question is there in the question box. Actually, ma'am, we are more worried about what if we are not there, and how can someone help him and accept in the same way we do. So basically, the parent wants to ask the question that how the other person is going to help him in the similar way, how we are trying to tackle our child. The only fear which haunts us as parents is that we are running behind therapists to make them independent as soon as possible. So any thoughts over this, ma'am?
See, we have to, all of us work towards helping our children learn the most that they can, right?
Yes.
But the most important thing that we can teach our child is to be happy. That is the most important. While I am trying to work out things for the future, if I do it from a position of happiness, I would be able to do a lot more. If I'm working from a place of stress and kya hoga, my getting stressed, is it changing things? Absolutely. My being unhappy about the future, is it making the future better? If it is not doing that, why am I getting unhappy? Enjoy what we have and try to bring about change from a position of joy and happiness. I'm not saying don't bring about change. That's what we are all working at. We are all working at bringing about change, but try to do that from a place of joy, happiness and enjoyment of your child.
That was the very key word you picked up, the happiness. The happiness matters the most. Generally, Dr. Sumit, who is there, joined in as a panelist for the next talk, also kind of delivers this thing as a theory that the general understanding of a parent is, I will do some work, I will have some success, and then I'll become happy. But the actual algorithm goes in a different way, flip-flop way. First, I need to become happy. And then whatever work I'll do, I'll get success. Yes, ma'am, you were adding something.
No, I was just going to say, see, because the thing is that there are many children who will learn X amount. There are others who will learn more. So if my child learns this much and not that much, am I going to be unhappy? And, in fact, there was something I saw the other day, which I wrote down, which said that behind the child that makes the most progress is an actively involved parent. I don't like this at all. What do you mean to say? What do you mean by the child who makes the most progress? Because for most people, progress is defined by kitna kar sak raha hai. Every parent is actively involved. But when you put that judgment that if the child is doing more, that means the parent is actively involved. And if they are not doing more, the parent is not. That's not true at all. Right? Yes. So, and I have to be prepared that, my child may learn. Whatever my child learns, I will be happy. However far my child can go, I will be happy.
Yes.
That is where we have to come from. Not that if he learns that, I'll be happy. Because wo kabhi nahi hota hai. Even with typical children, people are never happy. So forget about any other child.
So the eternal thought over here goes.
Dr. Sumit Shinde, hello.
Hi.
Hello, madam. I heard a lot about you. I'm a fan of yours.
Oh, God. Thank you.
There are many parents who say, I'm doing a lot of hard work. I'm doing a lot of hard work. I'm very much into my child's these things and all. Throughout the day, I have to be behind a child. So I tell them one thing that, jo bori uthata hai, the person who does the bori and hamal, we call as these things, he also does the hard work. But at the end of the day, he earns only very, very few things, few pennies, So you don't have to work on a hard work. You just have to work on a something called a happiness, which is when you do that, then at the end of the 12th hour also, you don't feel tired. You don't feel these things. You are compassionate, and that's what I also feel that this is more important. And then that time when the child also automatically improves his tolerance, his connection, his interaction, and that's what I feel that autism is management, or autism is getting cured, we can say, because ultimately it is what it is a social interaction and communication dysfunction. And so ultimately when the child is able to communicate nicely with the parent and able to convey his thoughts, beliefs, ideas, imaginations to the parents, or child is able to interact with the society, I feel that child is nicely got into the society. So
sometimes a child may not speak, and that's okay too.
Absolutely.
And the important thing is to enjoy the child.
Yes.
Not
yes.
work for 12 hours, work for 6 hours and 6 hours, have fun, be crazy,
Exactly.
enjoy
Yes.
it. Like
Yes.
Mr. Rodriguez said, that is what we have to do.
True,
Clown
true.
around, be silly, have fun.
Yes,
That will
yes,
bring
yes.
about a lot more change than therapy to therapy to therapy.
Exactly. A nice message to the parents that a person can live without a speech, but not with a communication. Right? A person without a speech can live in these things, but not without a communication. So most of the time, a non-verbal communication, if a person without speaking, if he is able to transfer his intention, it's more than enough for a child to survive in this world. Yes or no? I mean, this is something I believe in these things. Nice talk, madam. Thanks a lot for being on this panel. Thank you.
Thank you all listeners. Bye.
Thank you so much, Mary ma'am, for your time and your experience. Thank you, ma'am.
My pleasure. Bye-bye.